Meeting to order.
Right here. That would be great.
Gotta meet him.
Okay,
Can I get a roll call, please?
and Mr. Thompson,
Here.
Mr. McKnight,
Present.
Mrs. Carlson,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Hastings,
Here.
Mrs. Meeks, aye. I mean, here.
Chris Arduino, Recording Secretary.
Terrell Yarbrough, Superintendent.
Shelley Wagner, Human Resources.
Michelle, curriculum instruction.
Jason Bloom, Communications and Community Relations.
Josh Rand, Business and Operations.
All right. Let's have Mr. Arand lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we do a photo with
Do you have my
Josh?
As you
certificate?
should.
Next board meeting, we will have students that can show up.
Thank you. I was just going to ask. Excellent.
September 9th is the first, yep.
Next, I would like to have a moment of silence for a student at our high school, Janlene Davidson. Thank you. We will move on next to the approval of the agenda.
Motion. Second.
Mr. Thompson,
Aye.
Mr. McKnight,
Aye.
Mrs. Carlson,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Hastings,
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks, aye.
Excellent. Mr. Yarbrough.
All right. The mission of the Harlem Consolidated School District is a vital part of the community. Is to help diverse learners realize their unlimited potential by providing an educational program dedicated to academic excellence and the development of strong character in a safe and respectful learning environment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the approval of board meeting minutes, regular and closed for July 18th, 2024, and August 12th, 2024, special board minutes and closed minutes.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. McKnight,
Aye.
Mrs. Carlson,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Hastings,
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks, aye. Mr. Thompson,
Aye. Jason?
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. So, I'm excited this evening to introduce a great partner to the Harlem School District, specifically Harlem High School and our music department. And so I'm going to introduce Tim and Jeremy, who we've met before, the Golden Apple finalists this past year. But they're here to actually introduce, like I said, a community partner that has been very supportive and most recently supportive of the Harlem Palooza event that we had. And so I'm going to turn over to them. I'll talk a little bit about that and how this partnership's worked out. And obviously, we'll give our thanks to Windsor Pizza Parlor for all of their efforts and their commitment to the district.
So we had our Harlem Palooza event last Sunday, and we partnered with Windsor Pizza Parlor, who took care of all the food for us for the event, and then they also are donating the proceeds and then some to our music department as well.
Awesome.
I'd just like to thank you first for having me here. My name's Rachel. I'm with Windsor Pizza Parlor. I do their events and catering. Windsor Pizza Parlor strives to help the community and the schools. We know how important the arts programs are, not only for the schools, but also for our students. So on behalf of Windsor Pizza Parlor, we would like to present the Harlem Boosters Music Club with a check for $1,500. Thank you for having me here. I thank everybody for supporting Windsor Pizza Parlor. We look forward to working with you all again. Thank you for having us.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
So the check presented is for the state-recognized curricular course beginning piano, which is kind of our big reason of Harlem Palooza in the first place. This class will help students by meeting the necessary requirements for fine arts, foreign language in their process of graduation. Class Piano gives an opportunity to students who do not have the means or support to private lessons. This is an equitable solution to help every student have music in their lives. Our future music majors finally have the necessary curricular requirements to adequately prepare for college auditions. Many post-secondary institutions require students to audition their piano skills as part of the acceptance process. The check from Windsor Pizza Parlor will go directly toward purchasing digital pianos for the class. I know we've had lots of questions about, what kind of stuff we're needing for the class. I've had quite a few calls about picking up acoustic pianos from people's houses. Not quite what we're looking for, but we appreciate the calls as well. But so we want to kind of clarify a little bit of what it is exactly that we're looking for and what we're going to do and our goal for that class. So after a negotiation process with and a couple years of proposals, our music department was finally given the green light to have piano in 25-26, starting next year, which we're super excited about. Harlem High School has agreed to cover the $3,000 of the estimated $16,000 to purchase the equipment needed for the course. The remaining $13,000 has been tasked to the music department to fundraise to enable the class to begin by next fall. We're already about $4,000 in through the Harlem Palooza and Windsor Pizza Parlor. So we made a pretty good dent to start the year off. Harlem Palooza was our first of our fundraising efforts. We will be having our annual mattress sale in September. So, if you not getting good rest. Yeah. Along with various other fundraising events throughout the year. We will also continue to fundraise for our departmental activities and needs such as instrumental repairs, ILMEA auditions, IHSA solo ensemble entries and award fees, and more. We appreciate the community's support and look forward to enriching their children's music educational experience at Harlem High School.
Awesome.
Good job.
Obviously, on behalf of the High School District Board of Education, I want to say thank you to you guys for your support and for the work that you put in, and it sounds like you're doing that on a regular basis with them as well. And so, and as somebody that my parents live down the street from Windsor, we get to frequent your place very often, and we've got some great pizza. So if you haven't had a chance yet, you got to stop by Windsor Pizza Parlor. I know they also hosted a little celebration for some of our kids at Windsor Elementary.
Yeah, we hear their names a lot, so thank you very much.
Yeah.
Which was awesome.
That's right, thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate that partnership and connection. So, with that, I'm going to ask our board to come up and we'll do a picture of the cool big check we have. And I'll kind of come to the middle here and turn around face me. It's this way, yeah. I'll have the board turn around, yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't.
It's a good idea.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, it's gonna-
I keep this
Down here.
I got dust on.
All right, I think I got everybody. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, awesome. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm getting
We'll make sure, obviously we'll highlight this and then there's other.
This one is full size. Yeah.
You found the one person that has to be in town that has a pen. I think you're the one.
Thank you, hi. Thank you.
So something like that.
Oh, you're very welcome.
We want to avoid the ones that.
Reach out to us, yeah.
All right, so I have one other recognition this evening that I'm excited to share with you all. And it's really for you and to you. We get to recognize this board as earning the ISB Board Governance Recognition for 2024. Harlem Board of Education has been recognized for their exceptional governance practices by the Illinois Association of School Boards. The district was one of 46 schools, 46 school districts, or school boards that were selected to be honored this school year. It's a two-year award, so every other year you have the ability to apply and be recognized for this honor. The Illinois School Districts earn the School Board Governance Recognition for their effective governance behaviors and commitment toward obtaining knowledge and skills necessary to be effective, to effectively lead the district. As kind of a fun fact, we, other than the year of 2020, We have earned this award as a school board since this came into inception in 2011. So
Hey.
thank you for the continued effort.
2011, we were one of 2 districts that received it.
Correct.
Wow.
Yes, one of
Sorry.
2 or 3.
Well, maybe there was a later one.
But yes, so the first year, and then subsequently
Oh.
2012, and then every
Brag it
other
up.
year, with the exception of 2020. So we, obviously, as district leadership, as our community, as our staff, want to thank you for your commitment to this work. One of the things that I wanted to also highlight before we clap in our congratulations, I just want to share a little bit, just for people that are maybe sitting in the audience as well as watching online, just a couple of things that are part of this application process, so that you understand how school boards are selected for this recognition. And so the first is adopting and communicating written vision, mission, vision, and goals, also through our long-range plan. By connecting with the community on issues of importance to the district, effective boards engage in two-way communication with district parents, staff, and community members. Having and implementing the superintendent evaluation process, conducting regular policy reviews and maintaining a current updated policy manual, monitoring progress toward district ends with use of data, having agreed upon written and adopted code of conduct, and then lastly, collectively and individually taking responsibility for continuous learning and development as a board. And so, again, on behalf of all of us, as our district leadership team, our staff, our parents, our community, thank you for your service and the time that you put into being a board member and being at these meetings and all the work that goes on outside of that, but also your commitment to learning and growing as board members individually and collectively as a group. And so we thank you for this recognition. At some point, we'll actually get the certificate and we can do a little photo with that. But for right now, all I have was the letter that they sent us. So on behalf of us, our team, and anybody sitting here, anybody online, thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Jason.
All right, thank you.
We have one comment from the community.
It's me again. Thanks, you guys. It's really more of a suggestion. Jason, at the last COTW meeting, you had made mention about how to engage more with the community. One of the things that I have found with the COTW meetings that we're having now is that we don't have access, those of us that are attending, that aren't at the table with their laptops, we don't have access to the paperwork like we used to at some of the other meetings that we had previously. And I would just like to suggest that you make that available to us also. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Onward to Josh and approval of the bills.
All right, thank you very much. Total payables for this period were $3,978,115.32. There were void checks of $16,406.51. There were 3 payrolls since the last board meeting, so that payroll total is $10,095,206.03 for total expenditures of $14,073,321.35. Split out by fund, the education fund paid $10,508,287.80. The tort fund paid $22,500. The operations and maintenance fund paid $653,031.85. The debt service fund paid $600. The transportation fund paid $510,399.41. The IMRF Social Security Fund paid $342,655.17. The Capital Projects Fund paid $2,035,455.78. And the Life Safety Fund paid $391.34. Again, for total expenditures of $14,073,321.35. Are there any unanswered bill questions?
Can I ask a naive question?
Sure.
You have the IMRF. Is that just what's going into IMRF, or is that what also
That's
going
what
out
was
to?
paid out.
Okay.
Yeah, these are his
Okay.
expenses out, so.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. I'd also like it noted that no one left while I was reading the bills.
first and probably the only for a while.
If there are no other questions, that's it.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to communications and committee reports. Did I? Oh, it wasn't in my list. I read exactly what's here. I'm following after Mike. Motion to approve the bills.
Motion.
Second.
Mrs. Carlson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Hastings?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks? Aye. Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. McKnight?
Aye.
All right, now
There.
we're to communications and committee reports. And I'll look at that one. I am starting that one. I'm also covering for Mike. So let's see, he's at the,
He said,
You got the bookends.
yeah, the bookends here. So
Okay.
just calling out those first, we have the next regular board meeting, which will be September 9th, back here at 6:00 PM. We have the next policy committee meeting. These will be real easy because we have the committee of the whole where they're all on the same night. That will be September 4th, 2020, September 4th at 4:30 PM. And then business services will be that same exact day. What time do we have set on that one? Also 4:30. We're not breaking those things out. Come for the whole thing, stay and enjoy Josh there. That being said, school's back in session. The fun begins. Welcome back, everybody, the community, students, teachers. It's going to be a great year. There was a lot of things leading up to this, and we've got a lot of work ahead of us, but let's celebrate some of the successes. It was great to see everyone here Monday for the opening of the CTE building. It's a lot of hard work. I've never seen the community so excited. The internet, which can be a place of negativity at times, was completely not negative and fully positive for the great thing that this community is doing, and to see pictures of it and people sharing it and asking, when can I come see it? And then the open houses for the students being excited to then take their pictures in there and the pictures coming out of it. And that's before a single class has even come out of that building. So very excited for what's to come from that and knowing that the community is with us. The middle school, another big challenge. We put the 6th grade in there, and there's going to be challenges, and 3 board members, myself included, kids are going through that process, and it's going well. There's going to be hiccups. We're going to work through it. I want to hear from the community and everyone what those hiccups are, because we're all going to experience it, and we're going to get through this together, but it's been good news. And how about the school? Hopefully everyone has gotten a chance to drive by it for the amount of improvements. I mean, the middle school has always kind of, always been the one that gets neglected at times, or you drive by quickly, but now it really looks sharp. The new sign that's there, the great window decals that are there, the mural covering up 30-plus years of empty space, and having a local alumni that's doing that work and painting it and really showing everything that's on the inside of that building and the outside. It's exciting. Like, it's a great jumpstart for the students that are learning there, maybe the 8th graders that are there before, as well as, 6th graders. There's a lot of new for them, right? Going into a new structure. Same thing with the teachers. Being there on the first night and listening to some of the teachers that are learning right alongside of their kids of how this is going to go, and everyone being very positive and excited around that. I did have an opportunity to go to Harlem Palooza. It is fantastic. If anyone got a chance to go, hopefully they will go next year and they do it again next year. Besides raising funds, Windsor Pizza Parlor had a great setup for having pizza. It was awesome to be able to get some pizza there. Great sponsors. They were handing out Pepsi to anyone that was directly there. I'm sure there's a lot of other good sponsors. I know there's lots of silent auctions. It was a great event. I don't know if all of them were, but I would say the majority of the bands that I saw were all Harlem alumni as well, or members of it, which is, again, another cool thing where these musicians were able to come back and give back to the community and raise money for the next generation of students going through some of these programs. I'm sure there's so many things I'm forgetting at the beginning of the year. But the good news is we've got more board members that will follow up. And Evelyn is next.
I need a couple more things from you.
Okay. Oh, we have policies, don't we?
We have second reading.
We have second readings. Do I get to read through all of these? Or?
No,
Okay,
just read the
thank
one
you.
line.
Okay, so the
Recommendation.
Recommendations to approve second readings of policy update recommendations from July 18th, 2024, first reading, and July 10th, 2024, policy committee.
And then the next one.
And I'm going to keep scrolling, I don't have to read those. And then the recommendation to destroy audio recordings that are more than 18 months old, which would be 2022. Do we vote on that now?
No, that's
Okay,
on
a
the,
second.
Kurt, can I ask a question about the audio recordings?
pardon?
The audio recordings, are they completely gone from record, or are they?
Yes,
So they're still
because
not
you've already
anywhere?
approved the minutes.
Okay.
So the audio recording.
Okay,
is-
so the minutes are still, but not the audio?
Correct.
Okay.
And technically, if it's these, it's going to be on YouTube.
Right,
And I-
right.
to my knowledge, we don't remove anything from YouTube.
I don't have anything to do
So-
with YouTube, so.
Yeah.
Mike
so
just
there-
said, Michael just said, nope.
All right.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So it is just one source of those audio recordings, the official sources.
Just our
Wasn't
database.
sure, yes.
Okay, now Evelyn will cover everything that I missed.
I'm trying to think hard. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Pastor Pam, for, giving
Yes.
us, helping us out to make sure we continue that. Thank you. Greatly appreciate when we hear from the community. I also want to extend my condolences to Jocelyn Davidson's family. I know what it's like to lose a child. I lost 2 5 years apart, and it is difficult. It's never getting over. You just learn to deal with it. You take each day at a time. But my condolences go out to all of you. And I want to welcome everybody back for an exciting school year. And the summer went by so fast, I'm still in denial, but I know school has started. But as Kurt stated, the building is gorgeous. When I got home, my grandson had graduated in 2000. I kept forgetting the year. I kept saying 2022, and he's like, so I brought him, and then I brought my my youngest grandson, so he wanted to go in and act like he was a reporter, so he's walking around with his little, what do you call it, tablet?
Sure.
Walking around and taking pictures, and he's like, I'm walking down this long hallway, and I'm at Harlem High School. Look at how beautiful it is.
Can we get a copy of that?
Yeah, you can.
Yes.
It was,
I'd love to see
it was
that.
funny. And Jake saw him too toward the end, and all he could do was just laugh at it. It was just funny, but he was just going in and describing each room. But I just think it's amazing how we seeing different things that are being accomplished out here, and I just want to hope that we can continue to make all of our dreams come true, especially for students. And bringing this tech center back is wonderful, and is really just awesome to see it comes into tuition. It's just amazing. I can't even think of the word to say it, but I'm so excited. I also want to thank the Windsor Pizza Parlor for giving the check for $1,500 for the music boosters. I have to say this, I haven't been, but I'm gonna go, but I've heard great things about the food, so I gotta make sure I get over there. I've been to several meetings. On the 15th, I attended the President Board meeting in Naperville. And what that consists of, it was showing you how to run. I don't want to be president. I just want to go and learn. I just want to go and learn on, how to help out with, with our board, the Robert's Rule of Order. I mean, it was really interesting. It was really nice meeting other people from different districts, and just, I didn't get a chance to win anything, and I'm usually lucky, but I wasn't lucky that day. I wanted that bag with all the goodies in it, so but it was really nice to attend, and, huh?
Guess you gotta be president.
I was, nope. You got me confused on that one. Then I also went to the delegate meeting, that was in Bloomington, and that meeting was from 5:30 to 11 o'clock. And if we go over, they would have to close it down and then start back over again, because you have to go over so many hours of doing it. And it was nice to see, it's 21 divisions. I'm in the Kishwaukee division. I represent Winnebago, Boone, and McHenry. And it was nice to see people from all over the state, and some that weren't able to come, we got to see them in the Zoom meet. But when you think that you have it bad and you see some of the other districts, especially in lower part of Illinois, and then out towards Chicago, and hear some of the things that are happening there, and you're like, oh my, it's like a movie, and you're like just thankful that we don't have the problems that they have in the other districts. So I attended that. And let me see, our next meeting will be September 4th. Thank you, Chris. I'm sorry, but I just want to wish everybody, all of our students, a wonderful school year, and the teachers, the staff, administrators, parents, and I know it's hard, but we will get over it, and we will get through it, but thank you again, and I think that's all. I had something else, but I think it's, I think that's it. Right. Thank you, that's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Meeks. Aaron McKnight.
All right. Well, a lot of stuff's been covered already. Even going third, it's still kind of tough. No, welcome back, everybody. As been said before, it's going to be an exciting year, as every year is exciting. I don't think anything's the same, ever. You know, and Tim and Jeremy with the Harlem Blues, unfortunately, I wasn't able to make that. However, I was in and out that day, and where the stage was and where I live, I clearly could hear the music. It sounded wonderful, even from a few blocks away. You know, and I would encourage anybody else, and you know, anything else that we need to raise money for. I mean, we have the space to do things like that, and I would encourage it. You know, our community, they really like us. They want to help us, so I would encourage you know, anybody else that wants to do something like that. Like we can do that. I don't see why we couldn't. Another thing, you know, with us being with school back in, obviously with buses and stuff, so I'm just asking for everybody to pay attention, be patient, watch for those signs. I've already seen 2 of our buses, stop signs ran. Luckily, or unluckily, I didn't get license plates of either one of those, or I would have reported them. But it was so fast. I'm like, dude, that car just went completely right by it. Like, no. And so I'm asking that slow down, plan some extra time. You know, that's a future on those buses, and you know, we just look for it, pay attention. Another thing I want to say is, you know, it's a new school year, and just want to let, you know, just kind of put the hierarchy of, you know, as a district, we're trying to do the best we can. If for some reason something comes up with your student, please reach out to your principal. If for some reason your principal doesn't fulfill what you need, reach out to Terrell. And if for some reason Terrell's not doing it, reach out to the board. I mean, there's not a single person up here that is doing this for the notoriety, for the pay, for the fame, or at least on the board. We're doing it for our children, and I really want to open the communication. Throwing something on Facebook as a complaint I take it personally, because I'd like to think if it went through the channels that it wouldn't get to the point where it's at. So I asked that we go through the channels. I asked that we utilize the resources we have and keep the line of communication open to make this the best year for every single one of our students. About the CTE, we can all talk to in the face about how amazing that building is. And I believe Jeremy said in the committee of the whole meeting, I think September 27th it was, they're opening it back up.
Right.
I believe it's
For
September.
the homecoming,
The homecoming kickoff will be open again. Homecoming kickoff was amazing last year. Our encourage the community to come. Eat, hang out, check out the new building. Maybe culinary will cook something for us. Maybe they'll make a cheese sandwich. I don't know. So I'm excited about school year. I apologize I got a soapbox about the communication, but I really think, you know, because I don't know about the other board members, when I see something like that, something negative about our district, I know that could have been taken care of. I take it personally. I really want to make sure that we know that all of us are here to make sure our students have the best experience. So with that, I'm done.
Thanks, Aaron. Back to Carlson.
Welcome back to school. Welcome back to everything that's going on. Back to 2 meetings a month, I assume now. This will be interesting. Well, especially since the committees are gonna be at different times. We're gonna do one COTW and then have 2 meetings, so it's like the second meeting. Are we gonna talk about a whole lot? Probably something. The CTE building was amazing. I thought it was really cool. I really liked the stairs. That was impressive with the steps and all the different outlets and everything that goes with it, just the simplest things. The culinary was just amazing. Patty took us down there, kind of did a routine because she had been there before and kind of helped work on it. But wow, I mean, Jeremy took me in the kitchen and I was like, oh, but originally these old yellow electric stoves and everybody's crowded in and trying to get around and it was just, they had taken out, what, 2 walls, 3 walls and made the whole room this massive room and I was flabbergasted. It was fabulous. It was amazing. Yeah, you get your cheese. Those school pizzas or something will make up
I
for
just wanted a
you.
grilled cheese.
I spent some time with Jamie Carollo in food service, and man, she has got some fabulous ideas. She's got chickpeas with chocolate. It was one of the new things at school, and she said that these kids ate it up, and they just loved it, and it was like, oh my gosh, that was so cool. But she has got so many ideas, so many ideas, and she's got new lines at the middle school, and all the lines are open at the high school. I have never seen all the lines open at the high school. It was only 6 when I was there, and now there's 7, so they've got everything opened up, and she's got a full crew, and it's, wow, I was impressed. She took it off, she's made some new clothing regulations and some new things that just let the people do their jobs and enjoy their work, and it was really cool. I really appreciated all the stuff that she was telling me about. The communication was, COTW was interesting with education. I have a concern because we sat and listened to the SIPs for the grade schools, and it's concerning to me that it seems redundant, that it's constantly, we're gonna get them better in math, we're gonna get them better in ELA, and it seems like it's changing maybe a smidgen, but it doesn't seem to be changing drastically. Now, I don't expect it to be drastic all at once, but it seems like that we're missing something. And, it's hard to say what we're missing. Are we, do we need to start at the bottom? Do we need to say, okay, let's just go with 1st through 3rd grade and just say, hey, let's do a simple test, find out what they know, find out what they don't know. Do they know how to add? Do they know how to divide? Do they know, simple things like, can they spell their name? Can they write letters? I mean, it's frustrating, and it breaks my heart to see that these kids, some of them are going on. My question is, how are they getting to the next grade? What do they have to know to get to the next grade that they don't know and are not being held back? Do they know everything but something? Do they know nothing but something else? It's like, I want to know where we're missing. Start with the teachers, go with the principal, go with the different assistant supers, go with the superintendent. It's like, how do we fix it? How do we make it better? And I'm lost. So it's like, where do we start? And that's kind of, it's just disheartening to me just to see that some of them, and they're amazing. We've got kids that obviously are the top of their class, but from what I'm looking at the ISB report cards, average for all of our schools, now Olson Park is skewed a little bit because of the academic academy, but the average of our schools are 60% are 1 and 2 years behind. And so it's like, how do they get behind? I understand COVID messes things up, but this has been before COVID, that some of the grades are just not getting to where they are supposed to be, and I'm lost. So I would just love to see something simple that would just kind of look at what they're learning and what we're missing, so. And if anybody wants to fill me in, or I can help out anyway, I would love to, so.
I'm always gonna say more data, because that's just how
Yeah,
I go.
well, and
Like,
that could be too.
Historical trends, I said, for
Right.
longer periods of time, they give an idea of kind of where certain schools and
And
certain
that could
areas
be.
have been. I think even at that meeting, they called out, because I was right there with you, right, going, we're going to make improvements of math.
Right.
But then they later called out, that's for us, but there are specific goals. And I think the next meeting, or when we circle back to discuss that, kind of just at least presenting what those, they've got the data, they were
Right.
trying to save us, but I
Oh,
think we
sure.
really like diving into some of that.
Right. I would love to know some more of that stuff. I find, personally for myself, memorization is key to everything. I mean, when you're, from the time you're a newborn, memorization is, you memorize mom and dad's face, you memorize your name, you memorize your school, your bus, your locker number, there's always, I know that's how I learned math facts, was just flashcards, constant, and you just learned it. So I think memorization is amazing and, works wonders. So I want to help. So that's it for me, Kurt.
Hey, thank you. Moving on next, Larry Smith.
Larry D.
Larry
D. Smith.
It's not listed at the D.
That's fine, thank you.
Read it, even there.
I wish everybody in the Harlem School District the best during this 2024-2025 school year. We have wonderful students, the alumni that continue to come back and support the school and participate in school, work for the school, are top notch. And I feel that every one of them has the best interest of our students in mind and do a terrific job of doing everything that within their power to meet the needs of those students. And so I really appreciate them. Summer is not over. I want to go on record. Summer, we still have a lot of September 23rd.
Yeah, the weather is like October weather.
And now it's northern Illinois. It's going to be beautiful until Thanksgiving. So don't give up on summer yet. And the school buses, Josh, they were all so clean and sparkling going down the street. It like adds to the whole decor of the neighborhood. Just watching those school buses and the kids getting on it, and they're all just happy and having fun. So yes, it is a nice and the best to everyone within the school district and within all school districts. Just the best to everyone during this school year. So I don't know if Ms. Hastings was going to talk about it, but I did not make it to Rock Valley College for the robot competition. Oh, but they did have a nice write-up.
They did?
Yeah, they had a nice write-up, and I believe that young lady that from Harlem that's on the...
Performed very well.
Yes, yes.
Yep.
So I'll let you talk about it.
It wasn't on my list, so thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I've been in parenting mode, getting the kiddos off to school. All right, so yes, welcome back. Again, I've been in parenting mode, so my hair's not done and I don't have a Harlem polo on. But my kids went to school, so awesome. Mr. Smith is absolutely correct. They had a robotics meet at Rock Valley College. The middle school students that we had in and showed us the robot last year did fantastic. So I'm just so incredibly proud of their participation on the robotics team. Not only, taking a spot on a high school team as an 8th grader just out of pure skill, but then consistently going to these competitions and representing Harlem just incredibly. So I cannot wait to see what they do when they get into the CTE building. I feel like they're going to see that CNC machine and they're off. So
Hours in, yeah.
the band, so our goal is $9,000 is what I'm hearing. So 13 minus the 4,000 they raised. So if there's any one who would like to contribute to getting those students the pianos, the goal is $9,000.
Or want to donate an 88 keyed weighted keyed piano.
There you go.
I asked. So if anybody has an 88 key,
anybody want to call
piano,
Guitar
digital.
Center or any of
Not an
the
analog.
They are not a moving company.
Let's get them there. The one thing I absolutely adored about the speech was that it mentioned the fact that this is an equitable way to get students that cannot afford traditional piano lessons the skills they need to audition for secondary or post-secondary school. So that's what you want to hear. Saturday, the flag football team will be having a open house at Rascals from 1 to 3. This is their inaugural year. This is going to be your chance to meet and greet with the team. So I really hope the community shows up and shows out for them. It's been I don't sport, and I know how big of a year it's been for women's sports. Not only are we bringing on the inaugural year of the women's, or the girls' flag football team, we've got the softball field being built. Like Harlem, you can really see that we are at the forefront of bringing those things to our district and, representing what we're seeing nationally. So I'm super excited if you can make it out to Rascals Saturday 1 to 3. The landscaping on the buildings, thank you for anybody who volunteered their time, their energy, their effort, a shovel, a flower, a mulch, whatever, to make the campuses look so amazing. I saw multiple posts all over social media about folks literally just volunteering an entire day to make it, look good. So. The middle school, there's not a lot that I can say that hasn't been said. The one thing I will touch on that I did not hear is the orientation nights. Huge kudos to the HMS team. That was not a small feat. I was at the 6th grade night. The presentation was fantastic. Not only for students and for parents, you had a full administration there. You had all of the teachers, which I thought was a really nice touch. They had all of the teachers and the teams, so the kids could literally put a face to a name. They spoke about clubs, and then you could go visit the clubs in the cafeteria, and everybody was it was just a really great night. Overwhelming, yeah. I mean, your kid's going into middle school, the halls are filled, all that. But I saw several times admins pointing people in the right directions, teachers greeting parents and students. It was just a really great night. As overwhelming as it was, we all left with a big old smile on our face. So thank you to the HMS team for doing that. I hope everybody's reading their Battle of the books. I'm at 6, so get going. And then fundraisers. So I posted a couple fundraisers to my social media. Culinary Arts is looking for a wish list, as well as the 5th grade ALP classroom is looking for some seating. So if you've got some extra cash and you want to help one of the classrooms start the year off right, check it out. That's all I got.
Thank you, Megan.
Oh, education, September 4th, 4:30.
There we go. Everyone's got that one easy. Same date,
Yeah,
same
do
time.
I really need to
Don't put the whole
announce
thing.
each one?
Or maybe we can put the right times on them, or approximate.
No,
No.
no, because we're running through them if there's nothing
All
there.
right.
Yeah,
fair
I can't
enough.
commit to an hour.
Yeah.
Sorry.
4:30, be here.
I did want to go on record and say Windsor Pizza is good.
Yeah, I do believe that Evelyn might be the last person in town not to have had their pizza.
Oh, no, Chris haven't either.
What?
I have not.
All right, pizza party time.
Yeah.
All right, and
Let's do it.
close to pizza parties, but not quite. We're
So I'm
gonna
not
move on
alone.
to Michelle Erb with curriculum and instruction.
Thank you. This evening, I do not have any travel. However, we did share our set plans at the last Education Committee meeting and asking for approval, as I shared at that meeting. They are like living, breathing documents in the sense that I can go in at any time and they're constantly updating it, reviewing the data, making decisions based off of the current data that they have, so.
Excellent.
All right.
Josh Moran.
All right, thank you very much.
Everybody's still here.
Huh?
Everybody's still here. We actually gained one. Perfect, welcome. Making you blush now.
The first item is a recommendation to approve a resolution declaring surplus property at Chesney Elementary, Parker Center, and the Harlem Administration Center. Next is a recommendation to approve a facility request with Renegades Football Club. Is there questions on either of those? Okay, now I'm going to present the FY25 budget, then I'll hit the highlights, and then we'll go over the projects that we have left that rolled into this year, plus the new projects we're recommending.
Can we just call out, when was this budget kind of set, due, and when was the CT building opening?
Yeah.
How many kids do you have in the district? And how many hours of sleep did you get last week?
Not a lot.
Okay,
It
yeah.
was pretty much during the first day of school, so it was a little tight last week. I'm saying, so it's all good though. Hopefully this shows right up.
Thank you,
Can you remind me, Josh, of the schedule for the budget? So I know you share with us the oh, you got
It's
it.
in
Never
here,
mind. All
and
right.
it's attached as a separate, when we put it in the paper, how it's.
The third one on there.
timeline on there.
Okay. Scroll
So
down.
we'll hit-
All right.
we'll touch on
Apologies.
A couple different ways. So this is the agenda, and the first item on there is timeline. So we'll look at a little bit of where the FY24 is trending to end, hit a couple of our operational funds, add O&M and transportation, look at healthcare, what our bond payments look like, and then where the projected FY25 fund balances are. So tonight I'm going to ask the board to adopt the tentative budget. Tomorrow it will go on public display We also put something in the paper as required for a public hearing when we request the final budget. So public hearing on September 23rd and adoption of budget on September 23rd. At that public hearing is when I go over the changes between tentative to final budget. Any questions on that? Okay, so where are we today? This is the projected ending. There will be audit adjustments here too, so this is where we're at as of right now. So the ad fund only had a projection of about $500,000 positive. We're not going to go over why it came in higher, so that's a positive number there. The tort fund that is essentially planned, operations and maintenance came in a little bit better. So the other negatives here, like debt service, that's because we transferred $250,000 out due to CTE. Transportation fund had a pretty high positive balance, and a lot of that was Dr. Erb and the additional ECB funds that INPE gave us. IMRS, Social Security, we've been talking for a while about how that fund is trending higher. We adjusted that in the tax levy, and you'll see that tonight. Capital projects, some of that's rock cut, most of that is the CTE addition and other capital projects that we have going on. Working cash also transferred out $250,000 for CTE, and life safety had the tuck pointing work and then the beginning of the roof work while we were doing the CTE project. So, good questions. So one of our slides is property taxes. So you can see that in 22 and 23 we had CPI over 5%. We're all pretty well aware of that. EAV rose quite a bit to $844 million, and that trend is that will continue into next year. I think they're projecting 950-ish. So that lowers the tax rate. So as you can see, the tax rate went from 819 down to 612, and will continue in that direction. And then here is the amount of taxes that we got. So you see down there the negatives. There's property tax relief grant, there's bonds falling off to 2 years in a row, and pretty big declines, and then in 21, the property tax relief grant comes back. The reason this year it's only $298,000 is we got property tax relief grant again. So that money came in the EBF instead of we abated the property taxes over what it would have been. Questions on this thing? Okay, CPPRT. Last year, I had on here, CPP is not a consistent source of revenue, and boy, did that prove to be true. We budgeted about a $3 million drop. It was much closer to $4 million, unfortunately. So I checked on Friday, and I did not see a Department of Revenue projection for 25. I'll keep checking in when we get to the end. So in this budget, I reduced it $530,000. It may be worse, hopefully not. But this one makes budgeting revenues tricky because often the state can't even get their estimates even close to being right, and it's not consistent, as you can see here. Nor do they give much explanation as to what goes into this or what's going on with it. So $4 million drop is obviously not positive news. We had expected a good portion of that, but it was worse than they had said. So.
Did they give you any idea why it dropped
Oh,
seriously?
no.
You know,
I said
for
so.
last year, they talked about they had to recalculate something, and they dropped the amount that went to about $1.2 billion. But what they see going forward, I look at what's out there, but I don't always see a lot on it. And that happened too when I first got here. It was all over the place. And it is driven by the economy. It's corporate income taxes, but it should be a little more consistent than that. Like, that's pretty way out of whack. So this is evidence-based funding, and now there's a note on 21 and 25 are increased due to property tax relief grant. So our level of funding from the state has gone up a decent amount. But without the property tax relief grant, it's a little bit of a different story. So this year, our portion was only $527,000 of that, what last year was $33 million. So that's only 1.5%. You guys saw what the CPI is. So ISB is not keeping up, at least for us, with inflation, which becomes an issue. Because at $527,000, that barely covers the healthcare increase for the year. So, and at $350 million, if they can continue to find $1/3 of $1 billion every year, that amount that it's covering will be less and less of a percent. So this is something that is a potential challenge for us too. I mean, more money is great. because when I first got here, it was less money, and that was a real problem, especially when the economy collapsed. So this is more money, but it's not, we have 2 years of CPI 13.5% total. It's not close to keeping up.
Do we think that the medical clinic will offset some of that?
Yeah, yes, I mean, separate side of it with the expenses of the healthcare, but yes, that's the plan. But that, to make people, help people become fundamentally healthy, it might take a year or two. So yes, I mean, down the road, that is the plan. But in the short term, probably not in the next 12 months. So these next slides are a few slides of Ed, O&M, and transportation, just kind of shows you the breakout of them. So this is more of a normal funding breakout now that essentially the ESSER funds are gone. And that's one thing I want to point out too, is we haven't had a normal year, probably 5 years. So between funding that's been coming and going in positions, and there's been a lot of things that have been happening. So getting back to, and I don't even know if I'd call this year a normal year with all of the things that we have going on. But we're starting to get back to a little bit more of a consistent source of operational funds. So this is the expenditure split out. So salaries and benefits are about 86.6%, so it's a pretty high portion. So you get 21.8, 64,
Okay.
8. So the rest of that is departments, building budgets, grants, everything else. So we're relatively lean. Obviously, a vast majority of this is salaries and benefits in our budget. And then this is just the revenue. So we've had revenues exceeding expenditures for a while now. And that's one thing as we look at what this tentative budget is, and we're a district that we're not heavily reliant on property taxes like a suburb, and our free and reduced isn't 90% where ISB's giving us all of our money. We're right in the middle. So in times when the economy is great, things float along pretty well. When the economy starts to slow, like we see a little bit now, we're kind of floating in the middle. So that can create a little bit of pinch points and challenges sometimes too. So this is our fund balance. We'll focus on some positive news here. So since 2020, our fund balance is up just over $14 million. So that is a positive trend there. A lot of that, or 10 million of that ish is CPPRT going up too. And we have seen some positive interest trends. So that this last year in 24 is the highest fund balance that we've had, and you'll see that in some of the other funds too. So that's good. This is the O&M revenue breakout, although the transfers still relate to one-time projects and some are final CTE amounts, and the federal amount will go away next year. So the transfers will be less and the federal will go away. Almost all of it is funded by property taxes, the local sources. And then this is their breakout. So this is gas, electric, salaries, benefits, all of the other things that they do. It's a pretty wide range of things that operations and maintenance does. And this is the trend of revenues and expenses. So fund balance there too, FY24 is their high point that they have had. So some positive news up there. Transportation, majority of this is obviously funded by the state and the state claim. Don has been more aggressive as we are getting rid of newer buses on the sales piece. So you'll see that in the revenue side.
I like that I can see the piece of the pie from sales of equipment from here.
Yeah. Hopefully it continues going. And then this is the breakout of salaries and benefits, but you can see where we're actually buying those buses too. It's a fairly big slice.
Are we getting 2 electric buses? Are we getting 2?
So we were approved for 4 at 200,000, but they're like 350 each. So we had a company that does electric chargers come and kind of look at the setup down there. I think that's still in progress, but what will answer that question is what does ComEd make up, because they have their own incentives. Can ComEd get us to where the buses are free, or does it make sense just to do the 2? So we're kind of still moving along that road there, but hopefully soon can start to get those answers and possibly bid something.
Okay. So, very cool.
And with the 3-tier, we'll see less buses and we can start to scale back some of those things that we've been buying to. And then here's their revenues and expenses. Again, fund balance, same situation as the other two for FY24. So projected fund balance, or projection for FY25, and I'll go into the detailed breakout of this, but we do begin to see, as those revenues drop and salaries and benefits go up, we're just starting to hit a slight deficit there. But if CPPRT comes back and it's going to be more, obviously those numbers can change. Tort is within $10,000, that's pretty close. We had a positive workers' comp year last year, but those have trended up based on claims, so we're hoping if we can stack a couple positive years in a row, that will help. Operations and maintenance at $98,000, but more than the one-time projects were, I'm going to say give or take $200,000, so that's not necessarily an operational deficit there. Debt service, that's pretty much just the interest that we've gained in that fund, so that fund receives and pays what the amount of the bond payments are in a year. Transportation is slightly negative, some of that is ISB payback. IMRF Social Security, we had planned on that going negative a little bit because we were $500,000 of the excess last year, and as that balance increases, a little bit of negative spending there is okay. Capital projects, so that is the rest of CTE and the projects that we're recommending tonight. Working cash is just interest going in, and then life safety has the bond issuance for the middle school. We're still going down that path, so I put in my best guess at this point. That's not 100% set yet. Nor have you guys approved anything. Healthcare trends. So we do see an increase in healthcare costs, but overall a decrease in expense because we had more. At the end of the fiscal year, we have to make sure that the account has enough to cover what was claimed in June. So our July and some of the August expenses get put into liability. That was higher at the beginning of last year, and our stop loss was higher too. So even though the dollar amounts went up, what hit our books was actually a little bit less. So that trend isn't necessarily great, so hopefully that levels off, and that's where your clinic and hopefully it's a positive impact. Debt payments, this is where this currently sits. This is valuing future bond issuances. And I took off the year where it was $6 million coming down, because this is kind of just this year going forward. So the uncertainties are very similar to what last year was. What happens to CPPRT, interest, inflation, and healthcare is going to drive a lot of what this looks like going forward. So I was going to go over kind of the highlights or talk just a little bit about things either that were unique in 24 or things that kind of point out in 25 and then run through those projects and see what, I don't know if you guys have any questions up front now.
Very small, and it's just the fact of this presentation, I think, takes a lot of data that is, when you look at it in a normal way, is almost like a different language. Is this available so that our public can see?
Yeah, it says it right there.
Can be.
Okay. What was that?
I have not made it public, so the tentative budget is on display in the form.
Correct, yeah, absolutely, because we're looking at that
Oh,
where
you're talking
public,
about the
where you can see it. No, I was just saying. in this-
breakdown, I got you.
This breakdown form, to which, if you're
Sure.
not as fluent as finance as Mr. Rand is, that the others.
The one with pictures that doesn't look like this?
Yes, exactly my point. I'm just saying, I think this is useful for some of the community to see, because there's a lot of questions you kind of get, is where are we trending? How are we doing? This
Chris, can we
answers those.
post this to this meeting afterwards, just under this?
Sure.
So that it's there historically?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Sure. Okay.
ask me, you shall.
I'm sure Jason's giving me a time limit here, so I'll try and run through this.
I don't know.
So the spreadsheet that's attached is the budget, if anyone wants to pull it up. Or you can just listen to me. So on the education page, under local revenues, that the tentative budget property tax levy where it says 34.8 million, we talked about that's down because we abated for the property tax relief grant. Just one thing to keep in mind, that there's $135,000 less that we had to pay in the difference between what ISB gives us and what we're abating. So that's that'll be for 2 years, and then that 135,000 will come back. So as you're looking at this, keep in mind there's another 135,000.
I'm so sorry.
And then under last year's 24 actual and audited, the CPPRT, you can see where it went from 9.6 million to 5.6 million last year. Interest also, interest hit $2 million, but we're hearing a lot about they want to cut rates. Been hearing that for 6 months, but I do think in September you're going to see an actual rate cut and maybe a 0.5%. I mean, I hope not, because interest is a big portion for us, but.
You got inside information you want to talk?
I highly think they're going to drop in September because they've been threatening it for 9 months now.
Interest rates?
Yes. And I hear there's multiple cuts, but again, we've been hearing that. So let's hope they push this. We're almost, next month will be through the first quarter of the year without anything. So, I lowered this 250,000, but we'll see where that ends up. If you flip to the next page for state sources, again, we talked a little bit about this, but that tentative budget number of 35 million includes the 1.655 property tax relief grant is now evidence-based funding money. And that's what we offset lowering property taxes. A little further down, under the 24 column under early childhood, you see that we budgeted $1,593,000. It came in at $2,519,000. Again, that money that Dr. Erb wrote for and received of approximately $1.5 million, even though it was one-time money, is a huge deal. And $450,000 of that went to transportation to cover some EC transportation costs, but to get an extra $1 million essentially out of nowhere is awesome. So thank you for doing that.
Good job, Dr. Erb.
Under the next page, under federal, I have good Medicaid news, because you guys have heard me spend most of the year talk about where's the Medicaid money, and then we got the $1.5 million check in March. So in last year's conversations, because last year was down, our consultant said just take the last 4 years and average it. So that's what I did. So and that's where I came up with this $1,750,000 for this year. So that would be a $450,000 drop, but I think doing the average at this point, because we have 2 years that were $2 million it's over $2 million. So I think that's probably a pretty solid number. If you flip the page and you look at salaries, we were really close budget to actual for salaries, and there might be some journal backs for summer school, but as it sits right here, we're about $165,000 off out of $59.5 million. So I always like when salaries are close to what we budget. Under the benefits and medical insurance, you can see that it came in under, and so I've budgeted that at 14.5. We know that our stop loss went up over 400,000 this year because we had a tricky stop loss year. So we know that that's a fixed cost that already came in. So this would allow us another $1 million in cost as we go. So I am grateful that did not go up over the year before and came down a little bit. That was definitely helpful in our bottom line. There's not a whole lot else till you get, if you flip 2 pages to the end of the ed fund section, you'll notice under where it says transfers, for tentative FY25 budget, there's a $650,000 transfer. $450,000 of that is CTE. Originally, that budget was about $302. It's closer to 4. It might be plus or minus that, but I think that's where it is. There was a ton involved in that project, and it came in a little bit over, but not dramatically. So that's kind of where that's trending. The other $200,000 is helping cover some one-time projects that we'll kind of take a look at there. So even though this does have a deficit to it, we talked about the fund balance and where that's come over the last 4 years, and even over the last 8 years. 8 years ago was a negative fund balance. So we do have a lot of positives there, but just some things to keep an eye on that way. Tort, if there's nothing important, I'll kind of just skim them. Tort doesn't really have anything that's way out of whack in there. And we're mainly just running our workers' comp and our property liability casualty insurance on tort at this point. That's really all that's going in, is the property taxes and interest are funding that. So operations and maintenance has that $650,000 coming in. And so 650 comes into O&M, but 867 goes out. So essentially O&M's funding 217 of those one-time projects too, which is why it's 98,000 negative. So operationally, they're okay. Debt service is pretty much just interest positive. We do see a lower under transportation state source. We talked a little bit about that, like excluding those buses in the claim and having a little bit of that claim payback, because you'll notice in the sales of the vehicles on the next page, Don's been very aggressive in selling buses, and he's sold a lot. So 2 years ago, we were at 112. Last year, he got to 285. This year, he's got 357 planned. So that's positive there. When I looked at the bus, so if you flip 2 or 3 pages to capital outlay and I looked at what the budget was for the buses, these are the buses we've already bought. They already came in last month. So when we look at what next year's buses is, that's when we can hopefully scale back a few or try and reduce a little bit of that cost there.
Are you still close to that plan though that you had for that cycle of replacement cycle that you guys started?
Yes.
Whatever, 3 years ago?
Yes, so we've stayed on that plan. I do have to tweak it some, since one of those findings we had is that the bus sales have to come out of the claim, so that will change that formula a little bit. So I'll update that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'll update that. We'll look at reducing the quantity to see what that continues to look like. Because like you said, we are seeing more sales. We do have really nice buses, and we are getting more money back, but that's a balance there too. So.
Do we have a trend on how buses are looking? Because I know we've had availability issues and cost issues just for kind of supply chain, whatever they want to call it.
Yeah.
Like,
We actually got those on time this year because we bid them in like November, December. So if we could continue to do that, let's answer the question of what does the electric bus situation look like?
Yeah.
What is the total quantity that we need? And then what do that supply chain look like? But we're not.
yeah, we'll be doing diesel, gas, and electric here.
Right.
You go with a fan on it, we'll have bingo on bus.
The electric look like we could easily handle 2. We couldn't probably handle 4 high-speed chargers unless we upgraded the service, but 2 definitely. You can get some that are the slower trickle numbers too, so.
At least we get the answers now, right? Like, we can go through this and say no when we actually have a heads up because we've done the research to see. Because ultimately, if we're going that way, it'd be nice to know what that looks like. Do we decide to now, or we go, no, that's crazy, let's stick to what we know for the next whatever.
I think there's a good chance that ComEd fills in any funding gap and we either get
Well, can they
close.
fix enough of the grid in that area to do it? That's,
Say that again?
is there enough grid, is there enough power in that area to,
Yeah.
for 2, yes, for 4,
Right.
there's
and he was
stringing
looking
lines
at,
per mile.
looking at the amperage of that too.
Yeah.
And so it depends, do you need high-speed chargers or can you run them at the lower wattage? And does that work too?
Yeah, you get all those numbers and you can
How
run it
big's the
together. How
battery?
long is it? Yeah, exactly.
How long does it take to charge on a trickle? How long does it take to charge on a super?
Because we gave them how many miles those buses would run in a day and what that looks like for the routes and stuff like that. So we'll see what they come
How do we
up
get them back to the barn if they run out of juice?
Because this is where the welding was. So welding had a decent amount of power down there.
Okay.
And I'm assuming once we sort out the electric buses, we can see the bus plan kind of redone?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, we try and bring that each year and I'll
Yeah,
update
no,
those
I know.
numbers and, yeah, absolutely.
Especially if
I will say
ComEd
our
starts
buses
kicking,
stink way less
kicking
than
some
ours.
in, because I can see them doing that because they're under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
They set
I
up to
agree.
another 180. We're only 150 short.
Yeah.
And so, we'll see.
Okay.
I just like the fact of just knowing this and getting a heads up, no matter what we do, just at least having the plan and asking these questions ahead
Yeah.
of time.
Yep.
Plan.
We talked a little bit about IMRF. They ended last year at 531 in the positive. It's 82 to the negative now. They have a $2.3 million fund balance, so running at a slight deficit for a while is okay in that fund. Because 4 years ago, they had 1.45 million. Now they have 2.3. So, capital projects. I'm going to hand out the spreadsheet. So that shows how the 24 projects, whatever's left, we're rolling to 25, and then with the 25 projects, or at least what we're recommending. right, the top half is FY '24, and then the bottom half is FY '25. So we're finishing up the facility assessment. My hope is that we can get that to you next month at the earliest, October at the latest, for life safety, our 10-year life safety survey and facility assessment presentation. The middle school hallway painting, that didn't happen until July, so that all looped into this year. The 2 chillers, a lot of the prep work is done for the chillers, the piping and supports at the elementary, so those are projected to come in around spring break time.
Do we have the museum wrapped up for the Love Spark one, where we get to sit, the World War II era one?
Yeah. So hopefully those finish up okay at spring break. As I'm sure all of you have seen, the softball field is coming along, and
I still think they put it in the wrong spot. I still think you should have gone back to the corner, but I'm just saying.
So they built that so that you could have 2 is how that was laid out. At some point you ever wanted
We
one,
could
you
add a
have a
second
north
one.
and south one.
I
but
figured there was something.
It is, so, it's a little tiny.
We're gonna need a net somewhere,
We're
I'm
gonna need a
thinking.
bigger net.
I think we're gonna need a bigger net.
They did get rid of the 42 mounds of dirt that they had there. I was a little confused about.
They poured part of the backstop too, I saw today as well.
That's been poured, that's what those supports were, so they've had that.
Oh, but they were covered by the dirt mounds, so I couldn't see through.
They had wood holding that together for a long time, so
Okay.
they've done all the underground, the concrete, the dirt's
Gotcha.
coming, it's coming along, it's just, we'll get there. The post and the nets are delayed to like October, so they'll finish most of that towards the end of this month, and then they'll put the post up when they get here, so.
Of course.
Marquette parking lot, all the underground work and prep work was done by June 30th, but they didn't lay that until the first week of July, so that cost got split.
Great work on that one, too.
Yeah.
Like, the terrible layout to get to that back parking lot for all the parents that had to go back there, really looks, there's much nicer to get back there, better spot for the trash and all that.
It was one of the smoothest projects we've done. Norwest Construction did an awesome job
Yeah.
on that too. So.
I can say, I don't think we brought much to it, but when anyone that's driven back there, you're like, this is a good improvement for sure.
And then the carpet removal and tile, almost all that work happened in July at the high school. I don't know if you guys have seen
Yeah,
the library and some of those spaces, that looked really nice. So the facility assessment and life safety assessment are 2 different reports, but they come together, so the life safety portion is in there too. And then this reflects the high school roof replacement, of which most of that work was July and August. So they didn't get that kitchen work done in time though, so that was positive. So that is the wrap-up of the 24 projects. The 25 projects we're recommending is Marquette cafeteria tables. We have essentially 2 elementaries left that have older cafeteria tables. So we're almost done, and kind of the theme, not only here, but just in everything that we're doing, is having a replacement cycle for printers, copiers, cafeteria tables. We're almost done, we're pretty much done with the basketball hoop upgrade at the elementary. So just so we don't get behind on things and we keep things just continually refreshed. So box truck, we had box truck in there last year for food service. That didn't end up happening, so we need a 3rd box truck for multiple reasons. If one of the food service trucks go down, we need a backup. But also, once food service is using them, we have no access to them during the day. So if we have to move anything, we don't have a way to do it because they're driving the box trucks around. So that 3rd one is really important.
Do we buy them new or do we buy them used?
We've done both. We bid them last time just because there is no set market for box trucks. So what you'll find is they all have 100,000 miles and they're all $40,000. And so there's no Kelly Blue Book that you can go to like, oh, this is a deal. It's just the Wild West. So the more we look at them, the more it's just better to buy them new, and then we can kind of keep them and know where they've been. If that was a good option, I would do it, but we've been looking for a while. And we bought a used one before, and it just didn't last as long because it was, well, used. There's some food service equipment. The food service has requested a new cooler at the middle school and says that is a big need. We've had some issues with that cooler.
Didn't we replaced one of those, took forever to get there? Do we know the lead times those gotten corrected if they're getting another one?
So yeah, I mean, some of that was COVID installation delays. I haven't specifically asked about this. This will be one that I think you need for next summer. I think we should move on that pretty quick, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna ask that question now. I don't have an ETA on that.
Yeah, because the last one took forever to get here.
Sure.
Are they planning on taking out the whole cooler or just replacing what makes it run properly?
No, it would be a full new cooler, a new, so everything would be
Structure and a
replaced.
rebuild and all that stuff.
Yeah. And then, so this 82,000 for new building copiers, just kind of an update on where we're at for copiers. So for many years, at least the first 10 years I was here, we would do these 5-year leases and then just hand them back in after 5 years. 5 years ago, we stopped doing that and we bought a bunch, like $120,000, and said, we're gonna start doing it based on if they need to be replaced. Because we were sending copiers back that probably didn't need to be replaced. But for the last 2 or 3 years, we haven't done a lot of copiers because with that big bulk purchase, we bought 2 smaller ones last year. So as Aaron Gusky and I from Tech typically have those conversations and take a look at that, it's become evident that we need to do 5 or 6 every year and just make that as part of a normal cycle. So this is, I think, a 7 because we haven't done any for a few years, and then we'll meet with our, Gordon Flesch has been our copy company, when we look at where are the clicks, how old are them, like the ones in this building, we have kept them 10 years, so they become a software security issue at that point. So, we didn't get rid of them at 5, we doubled it, but they're like, you probably should replace those ones here. The high school has some big machines that it uses a ton of. We're also moving a few to keep them going. Like we looked at what the best scenario was there, and we will, I don't have it yet, but have a second quote on that too, from another company.
I was just gonna say, when you say they're our copy company, have we looked into other copy companies?
So we typically use Canons just because of how reliable they have been. They've been a really good, we veered away from them once and that was a nightmare.
More than one company sells cannons, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yep,
asking.
and we've always gotten 2 quotes.
Okay.
And that quote typically consists of like, what is it to buy the copier, but then the per click cost too, because that's obviously a big deal when you're running millions and millions of clicks a year,
Yeah, I get it.
of prints a year. So yeah, always with 2 trusted vendors that we are comfortable with
Or more.
servicing them.
I mean,
So.
I wouldn't be mad at you if you got a third. I'm
I'm
just
not
saying.
sure if there's, so we had Canon themselves quote, and they weren't competitive last time too, as the third, but.
Well, I'd be, the service is what I would be.
Sure.
Who's gonna be able to provide the best service?
Yeah, and in-town techs with as many parts as they can, because they all kind of do auto toner shipment on that too. Because right now, when I say that about Gordon Flesch's, they currently have our printer business and our copier business. So there are pros and cons to everything, but there are pros to having one company service all of it. So,
Just tell them to take care of us, and they can continue to have it.
and their per-click rates are really strong, but we'll see what this other quote comes in at. So, under O&M, capital projects, the Alpha controls, we've done a couple building full control upgrades. Alpha says that there are some LCMs at the high school from the age of them, communication standpoint, we really need to put toward. I said, what's the top thing? And they said, those controls at the high school. Because this is just a small portion of the high school controls. But they identified those as being what needs to be next. The next item, carpet removal. My hope is that this would just be an annual thing until the carpet is gone from the high school. That carpet was put in '99.
Even on the walls?
Yeah, the band room, yeah.
Band room.
Beautiful. The auditorium is carpeted walls also.
Yeah.
Parker Center has a lot of classrooms are split carpet in there too, so we really need to get that out. And we made a good swing, but we didn't do a ton of classrooms. We did the band and choir room, flooring, and the library. There were other hallways that were really old carpet, but now that we need to start getting into actually classroom after classroom of that. Middle school painting. So I'm assuming most of you have seen the cafeteria there and then that middle connection hallway, and that was a good trend. Would like to continue this until we have the building painted because we had the 70s glazed yellow tile. And it does go a long ways in sprucing things up there. High school furniture. So last year we bought the big chunk of middle school desk and chairs. That was 381 sets is where we ended up there, and that's been helpful. But we've done quite a bit with elementary, especially desk, but chairs also. We did that portion of the middle school. We haven't done much of any furniture for the high school. So I wanted to do some portion of this so we begin to upgrade some of those. Dr. Yarbrough, do you remember the last desk and chair purchase we bought for the high school? I don't, so it's been a while. So as we try and keep things in good shape, I think that would be important. Paving, as we've done some paving, just like everything else, based on the paving needs that we have, it makes sense to do at least one project a year, just to keep things in good shape. Eventually, we're gonna have to do the high school parking lot also.
Mhm.
So the recommendation here, and this is a rough estimate from me, I'll get something from the engineer about what they actually think this is. That west lot at the middle school is in bad shape, and then Olson Park is starting to need that also.
West lot's like gravel.
It's rough, because when, Olson Park had reached out and, I was talking to Mike Chandler and he's like, do the west lot at the middle school. He's like, it's bad. So where the portable is. So those are the two that I would recommend
Allow that lot to get smaller and smaller.
right now. And then McChesney signs. So as the sign hype has taken over, we have Ralston. Olson updated, they didn't do an LED because they're so close to residential homes, but they did update their sign. Obviously, the middle school sign turned out great. McChesney underspent their building budget by about $8,000 last year. Their PTO has a good chunk of this. So even though it's 25, 8 of it they've already essentially saved this year. So with the OLA program there, being on the street that they're at, they've had lots of conversations with us about wanting to update their signs. So I think that is something, when we talk about aesthetics of buildings and giving information out, is a nice piece of these buildings too.
Now, was the one at the middle school, was that part of that Bow Renewables deal?
No, we haven't spent the Bow Renewables money. We don't have the Bow Renewables money.
That's why, okay. Because that was supposed to be some sign money in there too, and that.
Well, yeah, we talked about that, and there's, trust me, there are plenty of other signs if we want to do that. Because Ralston's up to date, Olson's up to date, the middle school's up to date, and this would add McChesney, so that'd be 4 of the 11. So
High
it's
school's
good.
not terrible.
No, but it's been 20, 25 years. Like, we've had some conversations about, you would just swap the board.
The LED, yeah, the
Yeah.
LED
You just
board.
mentioned how the sign was literally just kind of propped up against it, like.
Well, there was another sign
different
just
sign,
propped
yeah.
up against it with our wrestler's name on
But
it.
their sign is pretty.
Yeah.
That's 25 years at least there. But when we had this conversation, we felt like McChesney was more important than the high school at this point, for this sign purpose. based
Yeah,
on
oh,
where they're
sure.
at.
Well, yeah. Because we can put what we're doing right, and all those cars go across there so much, and they can
Sure.
see it.
Sure. The last item on here is baseball field netting. So if anyone looks at the baseball and JV field, although this is just one, the fencing is rusting. It's really bad layout there to watch games, because Dr. Yarbo and I went over, took a look, and the JV field isn't very good either. So possibly putting up a net with new post and a little bit more concrete so that there's seating for visitors, because there's really no seating there. And we have really rusty, nasty looking fences there. So, that's the recommendation. Everyone's free to take a look at it and, share feedback of what they think on that.
I
So.
did have a question. I don't mean to bring up any skeletons or anything like that, but we had talked last year about McChesney's kitchen, and I know we kind of came to a consensus that it was not the year for that, and it might not be the year for that this year as well. I just want to make sure with putting the extra, 200
It's not even, 200 for
plus
what?
kids
Oh.
in the
yeah.
OLA program, that they're good there. And we've looked at that and made sure that we don't need to reassess anything there.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think that's a good conversation and one that we can, I'll keep talking to Jamie. I know Jamie does like that idea, and there's pros and cons to
Yeah.
everything. But yeah, we could look at that, and I'll touch base with her and see if that's something that we want to discuss when we get.
Yeah, just reassess from a student-based standpoint and,
Sure.
Just in a general feedback with her being in that position, how's it going?
Yeah,
She's got
I kind of like her
disposal
feedback
now.
on it. It sounds
Yeah.
like she's doing some really fantastic things. And again, I know last year wasn't the year, but with the incoming 200 plus kids, is this the year? Just look at those things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then I put the roof replacement on here. I have 5 million, it might be 6. I need architects once we get, so what we have right now is, historically, when we only had one architect, they would just have someone do the cores, then they'd give me the idea. I had DLA reach out to McDermott, who contracted with us directly to do those cores. once I get the core results, which is how much insulation in there, what does all that look like? I'll send that to both architects, have them give us an MOU of their cost and what that would look like, and then bring a recommendation to the board, have them design that, and then get that out to bid. So. Good. So that's it for the project tab. Sorry, that took a while.
Very informative.
Just on the O and M, when you're doing like the McChesney sign, the field netting, those kinds of things, can a lot of that stuff be done by PTO funding, or, you know, can we?
So, like the LED sign?
Well, like the sign and also like your field netting, you know, can your JV teams be like out
So-
making money for their netting and their?
Sure, so similar to what would be at the softball field, where they go down pretty far with the concrete, like, a lot of that is buying the netting and the poles, like, could someone fundraise for that? Yeah, I mean, the sign they did fundraise, I mean, they have 20,000+ of that total, so, they did a lot of that already for the sign.
McChesney's got good fundraising over there, but I just didn't know, like your high school, you know, teams, your sports teams that can go, hey, we're gonna play baseball, softball, you know, let's work on getting some nets, or.
Sure.
Isn't that how softball started though, with like even their place, like they were, the parents and the team members were trying to raise funds
Parents
initially
and-
for it.
Yeah.
And then when the cost got to a certain threshold, that we kind of had to come in if we wanted to do that.
Well, it's like the field turf too, you know, for the football field, that was, a lot of that was self-funded or fundraised fund. I got a T-shirt. I bought a T-shirt that something went to the field turf.
The other question was, I don't know if it makes a huge difference, but the one page said something about overtime on the salaries and stuff. Are we honing in some of that where, you know, we don't want overtime? And
Sure, yeah, so it depends which fund you're talking about. So sometimes there is seasonal times, like at the start of the year, or for short custodians too, like there's lots of different reasons. But yeah, I mean, we have an approval process for overtime. And some of that overtime, like if it's a teacher, might be extra hours worked rather than over 40, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah, we try and keep that to a minimum or as needed. Sometimes when we're getting ready for school, for example, we're gonna get everything in there, we gotta move on that. Also, sometimes overtime for operations and maintenance is rentals, of which we're billing for some of that money back, and you'll see it in the revenue side. So yeah, other than custodial, we do have an approval process for that, to try and make sure that that is needed stuff, that it's not just random overtime being worked, so. So if the board approves the tentative budget, then we'll set the public hearing and have the vote next month in September.
Excellent, thank you.
I still have a couple items.
Yes, you do.
Let's see if I can track down my actual agenda.
Perry.
Yeah, Perry, that's a good one.
Oh, Perryweather, yes.
Perryweather.
So we talked at committee of the whole regarding Perryweather. I guess you guys need any other information? We talked about it.
I did have a question, just because I don't think we had one of these, I don't think we had the agreement at the committee of the whole. Installation, where's this thing gonna go?
So it goes on the press box at the high school.
Okay,
And so they said they could charge us for installation, or we can just put it up. So I
Okay.
just thought we would run that through our maintenance department, and they could install it.
okay,
They said
great.
they would talk us through it, like,
Can't be much.
No.
I mean, it's a decent size, like, but you still have to, I don't remember if this one was cellular or it hardwired. I think this one is cellular. We just need to get power to it.
Okay,
So,
just making sure, because it had some of the important notes of like lift trucks and bucket trucks and all that, so I'm just making sure we have sort of.
Just hang off the side of it.
Yeah, I mean, we paid money for it, I don't want it like hanging off a building or something.
yeah. no,
Or a person hanging off the building and
Yes,
stuff.
yes.
I do think this is gonna go a long ways to improving safety of.
No, it looks
people in
fantastic.
attendance and our kids. So,
And this will just call out, just if anyone else is watching that doesn't know Perryweather, because it's Perryweather, will help with lightning detection, weather detection, heat detection for high school sports, and then we can leverage that as well for basically the surrounding schools as well.
Yep, and it sets a lightning timer once there's something within 10 miles, and then it tells everyone when they can go back and.
And that information can be publicly available on the site, so you can follow along at home.
Yep.
Or at the gate.
There'll be a widget or a QR
Or
code
your
to
car.
scan if you're at the, right, yep.
I know HCC's buying tap into that widget for all their baseball diamonds, because of being close enough proximity.
Oh, yeah.
They've been a good partner for a while.
Yeah. No added
They're
cost to
still going to
anybody
be a
else, so.
partner for us, the rest of our softball levels.
Right, yep, absolutely. Okay, my next item is a recommendation to approve an agreement with the Illinois MTSS Network to provide professional development to the Harlem Middle School Improvement Team at a cost of $16,560 paid with school improvement grant. Any questions on that? And my final item is a recommendation to approve an independent contractor agreement with Maria Ragnes for speech and language services at $100 an hour, up to 15 hours per week from August 15th, 2024 to June 1st, 2025.
Thank you for updating that language.
All good.
There are no other questions. That is my report this evening.
Thank you, Josh. Shelley Wagner for Human Resources.
Yes, good evening. Tonight I have the recommendation to approve the personnel agenda and addendum. We have 8 transfers, 30 employments. I like that.
Yes, I like it.
10 resignations.
Boo.
Yeah. And 1 new position. This new position is a bilingual paraeducator as required by the Illinois Administrative Code due to the increasing number of multilingual learners and newcomers in the first grade OLA classroom. And that's it for me tonight.
Thank you.
Is it a requirement because of a certain ratio that of paras to students? Or is it teacher to student ratio?
Teacher to student, so the state says that we have to be 90% of whatever the CBA says. So if our CBA allows 50 kids, it's 90% of 50. If it's 25 kids, it's 90% of 25. But since there is no actual number that the state gives, if we have to go over that 90%, all the way up to our CBA, then we have to put a paraeducator in there.
Thank you.
All right. Are you good with that, Larry?
Yep.
Oh, perfect. All right. Dr. Troy-Arbo.
And I'll go through my 24 years, no.
Yes.
No, it's only 4. So if you have any questions, I'm just going to run through. If you have any questions, please ask. So the first one is dated July 12, 2024 from Sherry Reed of Smart Procure, requesting purchasing records from 4/10/24 through the current date in the district response with inclusive records dated July 18, 2024. The next one, it was submitted by Jan Mainsfield on July 2nd, 2024, requesting emails between the Board of Education members and the superintendent, individual and group. You had the district's 5-day extension request, and then our final response sent to requester, which included responsive emails for March 2024 through July 2nd, 2024. The next one was from Jennifer Loreno, requesting a video clip of her student dated back to May 22nd, 2024, and our response dated July 25th, 2024, denying the request under FOIA, but treating the request as a student records request and inclusive records. So she did end up getting the video through that. Then the last FOIA request was Dan Williams on August 1st of 2024, requesting vendor busing contracts for the past year, and the district response dated August 2nd, 2024, and inclusive information. Any questions on the FOIA request?
What is vendor busing? Because I have no idea what that means.
Josh, do you remember that? Vendor
So
busing.
any vendors, like contracted busing, like we did the one group who was driving some of our students out, like we hired First Student or something like that.
Like for field trips and different things, or?
We only had the one
Yeah, it was only the one.
who we're not really using this year, so.
Remember when we were having the shortages as well, and we
Ever,
had one company?
yeah, Ever Driven,
Yeah.
that was the one.
So we do not, thankfully, we don't need that service anymore, because all of our transportation is accounted for now.
We have no bus driver
No
openings.
bus driver openings. So-
Yeah, nice.
We'll still take a couple on reserve.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
We have a few on reserve.
We got some applications that we already screened.
If we get to 18, we go back, right?
So that's good. It's good.
That's the best.
Josh just laughed.
All right. And then the last one I have is a recommendation to approve the updated target policy for our Harlem Athletic Department. It's really just kind of looking at some different language and verbiage and
We've
making
added
corrections.
flag
And then we added 6th grade and we added flag football. So
Yeah, I was gonna ask, because I haven't been around for one of these, so I didn't know if it was, just kind of like an annual thing, or the new AD had read it. Okay, all right, perfect.
He went through it with a fine tooth comb from what I understand.
That's good, it should be, it's important, so.
Absolutely.
That ends my report.
Thank you. The consent agenda. We'll start with the approval of personnel agenda and addendum.
Motion.
Second.
Mrs. Carlson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hastings?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks? Aye. Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. McKnight?
Aye.
And there were no student travel requests, and there was a facility request.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Hastings?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks? Aye. Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. McKnight?
Aye.
Mrs. Carlson?
Aye.
On to action items. 14A, approve second reading of policy update recommendations from July 18th, 2024, first reading, and July 10th, 2024, policy meeting.
Motion.
Second.
Mrs. Hastings?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks? Aye. Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. McKnight?
Aye.
Mrs. Carlson?
No.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
14B, approve destruction of audio recordings older than 18 months.
Motion.
2022.
Second.
Mrs. Meeks? Aye. Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. McKnight?
Aye.
Mrs. Carlson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Hastings?
Aye.
14C, approval of school improvement plans. Harlem High School, McChesney, Maple, Marquette, Olson Park, Parker Center, Ralston, Rock Cut, and Windsor.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. McKnight?
Aye.
Mrs. Carlson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Hastings?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks? Aye.
Approve resolution declaring surplus property.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. McKnight?
Aye.
Mrs. Carlson?
Aye.
Mr. Hastings?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks? Aye.
14E, approve
All good.
FY '25 tentative budget resolution and public hearing set for September 23rd, 2024 at 5:40 PM.
Second.
That's a motion.
I believe you guys
Motion second.
Second.
Okay.
Mr. McKnight?
Aye.
Mrs. Carlson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Hastings?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks? Aye. Mr. Thompson?
Aye. Approve a 3-year agreement with Perry Weather for an outdoor warning system at a cost of $3,950 for the first year and $3,600 for the second and third year.
Motion.
Second.
Mrs. Carlson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Hastings?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks? Aye. Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. McKnight?
Aye.
14G, approve an agreement with the Illinois MTSS Network to provide professional development to the Harlem Middle School Improvement Team at a cost of $16,560 paid with school improvement grant.
Second.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Hastings?
Do we have a first on that?
I don't think we, okay,
Sorry.
no worries.
No. it's-
Okay, let's start with a vote. I'm sorry.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Hastings?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks? Aye. Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. McKnight?
Aye.
Mrs. Carlson?
Aye.
I'm moving fast.
14H, approve an independent contractor agreement with Ragonese
Sounds right.
for speech and language services at $100 an hour, up to 15 hours per week from August 15, 2024 to June 1st, 2025.
Motion.
Second.
Mrs. Hastings?
Aye, sorry.
Mrs. Meeks? Aye. Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. McKnight?
Aye.
Mrs. Carlson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
14I, approve the updated Harlem Athletic Department philosophy target policy.
Motion.
Second.
Mrs. Meeks? Aye. Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. McKnight?
Aye.
Mrs. Carlson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Hastings?
Aye.
All right, any announcements and discussion?
Did we approve the display of the budget to go on display?
Yes.
Yeah,
I have
that
the date and
was,
everything in motion for that was 14A?
25 tentative budget resolution and public hearing.
Oh, no, that was policy.
Oh, there it is.
Set
Okay,
for
14.
September.
Yeah, 14E.
14E, there we go.
So that says,
And it's going in the paper to notify people on display,
Yes.
and I'll have it in the office tomorrow. I mean, I think that's all that's legally required, but we'll have it. I mean, it's currently posted online in this meeting too. It'll be a hard copy here and it'll be in the paper notifying people of the public hearing, so.
Yeah, because we're attaching that
So we
Yeah.
don't really approve the budget until.
the 23rd.
You're essentially approving the tentative, well, the way it reads, yeah, it doesn't say that, but we're.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Okay. I'm good.
I don't think-
Motion?
Any other announcements or discussion? Okay, we're going to be going into closed session for discussion of lawful closed meeting minutes, 5 ILCS 120/2C21.
Motion?
Second.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. McKnight?
Aye.
Mrs. Carlson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Hastings?
Aye.
Mrs. Meek? Aye.
That's kind of what.
All right, 5-minute break.
I guess
You review
I was expecting
something,
to
right?
actually
Yeah.